Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple Double Podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Fitzgerald. With me today are Cam McKee.
Hello.
And Hunter Knisley.
What's going on, everyone? Glad to be back after a little bit of a wait.
Yeah, it has been a bit of time doing some traveling, doing random things. But, it's good to be back on the pod and just ready to talk some shooty hoops. As always, the biggest news coming out of the week, David Fizdale is no longer employed by the Memphis Grizzlies. Fizdale was fired, reportedly by the GM. Wallace was his name, his last name anyway. But he was fired for benching Gasol for an entire quarter in their 8th straight loss. So the Grizzlies started out pretty hot, and now they're kind of just downhill. Gasol himself is having a pretty good season, but reports are that him and Fizdale just didn't get along. But Fizdale was there in the Miami Heat days with Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, and LeBron James absolutely loves Fizdale. So to see this kind of just fall through and see what should have been a good coaching experience and somebody who did start out red hot, just dropped down to 8 straight losses and now he's fired, I find absolutely remarkable. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
It disgusts me. I think I have a lot of respect for David Fizdale, and he's a young and up-and-coming coach in this league. He's still got a lot of years left to coach, and he will get a job. I'll talk about that later. But I think Marcus Gasol definitely played a huge part in it. I also think that he was definitely the fall guy. We need someone to blame, and the front office is like, it's not going to be us. We're just going to fire the coach. That's my take on it.
Interesting.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. It's a really crappy situation for their upper management to be in, I think, because, you either go with the coach you've had for a year and 15 games, or you go with Marc Gasol, who's been with your organization now for a pretty long time, and he's beloved by their fan base.
He is.
I understand why they fired David Fizdale, but it's just so tough because, like you said, he's a great up-and-coming coach. You see, even last year in the playoffs against I believe, San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, of course it was a Spurs.
The way he defended his players, his whole team, he would stand up for anything against them. And we've seen rumors with Marc Gasol didn't talk to him for almost a year. And we've seen Fizdale got fired, David Yeager previously with the Grizzlies have been fired. Tension between him and Gasol as well. Gasol seems like such a selfless player. It's kind of surprising to really hear this about him.
I feel like it's coming to a point in not necessarily the league, but I'll say that. In the league, I think that we find that there are certain types of stars and there are certain types of personalities in the league that you have to take, that they want to do their own thing and they don't care what coach is saying. They're a star in the league, and they're obviously a good player, and they're commended by their fans, especially a small market team. And I think we see this a lot more with the small market teams. You have Boogie issues in Sacramento, where he's getting into fights and yelling with George Karl. You have Marc Gasol, who's now moved on to what will this be, their 5th coach in 4 years, or 4th coach in 5 years, or something along those lines. Still, not a lot of continuity there. You have issues with Carmelo Anthony, which is a bigger market, but he had issues with the people in Denver as well.
Yeah, Denver definitely.
That forced
Phil
the trade.
Jackson, in New York as the GM.
And to me, it just it just makes you appreciate, not necessarily Steph. I think it makes you appreciate Steph Curry, somebody who is able to. And don't get me wrong, Steph's an amazing player and he's still putting up great numbers no matter what. But his ability to kind of come second fiddle to Durant whenever Durant came in there, and Durant did what he wanted.
Well, that was a whole problem when he first came in, was that he was giving Durant too much time. Durant wasn't kind of ready for that, and Steph Curry stepped back too much, and Steve Kerr had to tell him, "This is still your team, man. You do your thing," and that's what really put them together.
Yeah, but I think that with that also allowed Kevin Durant to become more comfortable and allow Kevin Durant to not necessarily feel like he was walking into a different team. He would still be like he's a part of the team. He's still a huge part, and obviously Kevin Durant is an amazing player, one of the best in the world at the sport of basketball. But at the same time, it's it's important for Steph and like those players like that to not get so caught up in what they're doing that they lose the sight of team basketball.
Right.
And
it's kind of weird to see too, like the Grizzlies the last couple of years, even with all this tension, have still played about the same good basketball the last few years.
You always get that 7 seed and play the
get
Spurs.
that consistent 7-8 seed and always end up playing the Spurs in the playoffs. But I mean, I've now seen this multiple times with the Grizzlies. I really think they have to consider just the I can't think of the word, but what Marc Gasol brings to the team, but how he's really affecting the atmosphere and the culture in Memphis. He's had a very good career, but at this point, he's in his 30s now. He's starting to go downhill.
You should look to evaluate in the best way.
I mean, David Fizdale is honestly, he looks like he could be one of the best coaches in the league in a couple years.
Yeah. You want to hear my prediction?
Sure.
Cavs start going downhill a little bit. Goodbye, Tyronn Lue. Hello, David Fizdale.
That would be nuts.
Interesting.
You hear King James.
I mean, Fizdale.
Why do I call him King James? LeBron and Wade both speaking out for him. Yeah. I could totally see it.
Fizdale could possibly be other. I mean, right now LeBron's best coach he's ever had is probably Eric Spoelstra. And I mean, it's between him, Mike Brown, and Ty Lue, and David Blatt.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Fizdale would be one of the best coaches he's ever had.
Yeah,
so it'd be interesting.
He reminds me a lot of Mike Brown. Mm-hmm. Like he's just that very easygoing guy.
Yeah,
but like I think he's a better coach than Mike Brown. Yeah, although Mike Brown has really shined as an assistant coach at Golden State.
Fizdale has fire in him.
I think he may even come on at Cleveland like now. And you never know what could happen from there.
Interesting. I'd love to see it.
Certainly, very interesting. And now I kind of want to shift. I touched on this like a little bit whenever I was, off on my little like boogie rant a little bit. The Thunder are certainly not where anybody expected them to be at this point. They're struggling to if the playoffs started today, they wouldn't be in. And I mean, I know it's only November, but there are legitimate struggles on this team. It's not like preseason jitters. It's not like early season, finding a rhythm. There are legitimate holes and legitimate problems with this team. And I know they just beat the Warriors, right? And that was impressive. But at the same time, you take a look at their next game against the Pistons. The Pistons, they are down by 1 on a last-second shot. Russell Westbrook takes the ball and just shoots an unwarranted 35-foot three-pointer. Loses the game. They were down by 1. Down by 1, and they shoot a 3.
Did they have time?
They had 5 seconds. They had 5 seconds. That's enough time for Billy Donovan to call a play and do that. But is that Billy Donovan being like, all right, Russ, what you got? Or is that Billy Donovan being silenced by a superstar? Is that what this NBA culture has come to, where we have superstars wanting to play like they, Russ hasn't changed his game, right? He's still playing the same as he was with Kevin Durant, as he was playing by himself, as he was playing now. He's giving 110%. He's taking as many shots as he wants. He's doing exactly what he wants. And that's all that you could ask for somebody like that. And they have relatively good success. But you can't build that playoff championship. You can't build that team aspect around Russell Westbrook when all he wants to do is, take those last-minute shots.
Tries to take over the game a little too much.
Just tries to take over the game a little too much.
Which, I mean, I think he's their best player. I agree that he should be able to take over a game, and he should be probably taking the last shot. But, I mean, just the way he's doing it, he's just so out of control right now. I mean, even last year, he basically just had to shoot as much as he could and carry that team to 45 wins in the regular season. But yeah, it's really, really unhealthy right now in Oklahoma City. A lot worse than I expected it to be. They've had a couple games where they've really, really clicked, like against Golden State and a couple games early in the season. But I just,
people are very upset. Like when Carmelo Anthony, when he got his 2K rating and it was low, and he got like when they rank the players and he's way down there. I completely agree. Like I no longer see Carmelo Anthony as a elite or even good player.
Can't play
he
defense.
takes up space. He's a heap of garbage right now. He's doing nothing for the Thunder. He did nothing for the Knicks.
Offense. He needs to be in like a specific like.
He needs to play the Nuggets.
Is almost like perfect
like,
for him. I mean, he played decently well in the triangle offense, but now he's in this more up-tempo, fast-paced offense with Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and he
hasn't learned. He doesn't learn a thing, and it's like
at this point in his career, I don't think he will learn.
Mm-hmm. No, because there are certain types of personalities in the NBA who are, I don't care what the coach is going to tell me. I don't care what's going to happen. I am the best player on the court. I deserve the ball in my hands, and I know exactly how I'm going to play with it. You know, Billy Donovan, and I heard this on, it was either the Ringer NBA show or SI's Open Floor podcast, but, you know, Billy Donovan in Florida didn't win championships, didn't win national championships with teams by jacking up 35-footers in the final seconds of a game. That's not how you win. That's not how you play basketball. And I want to touch, like, last season's in the past, but Russell Westbrook in the playoffs. He shot in Game 5, his final game of the 2017 regular season, capping off, his MVP season. He took 18 3-pointers.
Nuts.
Can you guess how many he made?
5.
Yes. He legit made 5. He shot 27% from 3 in the final game. This year, I don't know how much he's taking right now, but if I had to guess, he's probably taking double. He's up to 5 3-pointers a game, and he's shooting 31% from 3. To me, he's never been a great 3-point shooter, and he's trying to adjust to the game and how it's evolved for the 3-point shooting. But now that he's surrounded by 3-point shooters, he doesn't need to shoot the 3-point shot anymore. You know, you have Paul George, who's a competent 3-point shooter. You have Carmelo Anthony, who's a competent 3-point shooter. You know, to me, it's outrageous. It's outlandish for stars.
So are you saying the blame should mainly be on Russell Westbrook here?
I think the blame should be a little bit on Carmelo Anthony. I think that Carmelo is a waste of space at this point in his career for any championship team. Maybe a LeBron would help that, maybe. I'm not sure.
I mean, maybe there's a reason he never ended up on Cleveland anyways.
It's clearly because probably LeBron does not want to play with him, But I would say that a majority of the blame for all of the Thunder struggles lie on Russell Westbrook. I would say that last year it was impressive what he did with his triple-doubles and his ability to lead a team to the playoffs and take it on himself. But at the end of the day, when you're looking for a championship team, Russell Westbrook does not fit that picture.
Yeah. I kind of have to agree with you.
Yeah, he hasn't changed his game at this
point
in his career.
I don't think that takes away.
Think he ever will, which is sad to see. But I mean, I just don't know if it's possible.
I don't think that takes away from the skill that he has, because
his
skill is undeniably one of the best in the league.
Dynamic players in the league.
It's just he can't work with people.
I mean, he can get to the lane at will, and if you've got Carmelo in one corner, Paul George in the other, and Russell Westbrook driving to the paint, I mean.
That's an easy 5-second play.
Yeah.
That's
but
an
instead,
easy 5-second
if there's
play.
a guy if there's a
pull up for a mid-range jumper, kick it out to one of them for 3, but they're just.
But no, he goes straight for the hoop. Even if there's a guy there, he just he'll run straight out.
It's rough. It's very rough. You know, if you're an OKC fan, maybe you're wrong. Like you think we're crazy or we're wrong, and Russell Westbrook's the GOAT. But it's rough, and I think that's what's going to inevitably end up scaring away Paul George this offseason. I think he's going to see that he cannot play with Russell Westbrook. And I think that, and not a lot of stars can. And I don't think that there is any one star in the league that I can think of right now who would complement. No, well, Paul George can complement, and Carmelo Anthony can complement. But I don't think any star in this league is going to get Russell Westbrook to be like, all right, let's do this anymore, especially not after Kevin
Russell
Durant
Westbrook can't be guy number 1, but he refuses to be anything else.
That's the best way to put it. I agree with that, Cam. Very well said. Moving on, in a recent GM poll, it was taken, and this is the second year in a row. All GMs were asked if you could choose any one player in the NBA to start your franchise with, who would it be? And an overwhelming majority said Karl Anthony Towns. Fellas, do you agree with this?
Funny thing, I just want to point out, LeBron's still up there. Like at number 3, he's 32 years old, and people would still start a franchise with him. Yeah, I agree. I like Giannis too. I think I'd take it. I would be happy with either one of them. I would take either one of them. So Karl Anthony Towns, he's very dynamic for a center. I think he brings so much to the table, as well as being like an overall like team player as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, you see, I completely disagree.
Okay.
With this, I think that Karl Anthony Towns, Special K, Cat, is a great player, and he has a lot of talent. But I think all this talent and all this hype around Towns has kind of gotten to his head a little bit.
I agree.
I think that he now thinks that he's a solidified star in the league. And don't get me wrong, the kid's phenomenal. And he's only, 22? Yeah, right?
22, yeah.
22 in 14 days, according to Basketball Reference. So happy birthday 2 weeks ago to Karl Anthony Towns. But nonetheless, I think that he just hasn't progressed defensively to the point.
His defense
is god awful.
It's honestly, he might be the worst defensive center in the league. He can block some shots, but he can't. That's about all he can do.
I agree with that. It's incredible to me that so much young potential is going to go to waste. And you have a defensive mastermind in Tom Thibodeau in there, and where is the progression? This is his second year under Tibbs, and the Timberwolves are barely like a top defensive team in the league. And they brought in Jimmy Butler, and they brought in,
they're not performing.
They're just they aren't performing, and if they aren't going to win games, then how can you say that Karl Anthony Towns is a piece to your team? Whereas I would probably say, if I had to take a top 3 people, I'd probably say Giannis number 1.
I agree.
Probably Ben Simmons number 2.
Okay.
You don't have the injury risk as much.
Well, this poll was taken before he blew up or anything.
Right, obviously. But if that was redone, I don't know. Simmons to me, transversal or a transitional type superstar already in the making, and he's just dominating. It's his first year. Obviously, love Ben Simmons. Mayor of Philadelphia at this point.
Right.
And then probably, it's a toss-up between Karl Anthony Towns and Joel Embiid. I'd say, you have the risk with Joel Embiid, but when he's not on the court for Philadelphia, there's a legitimate issue with their defense.
Oh,
and
yeah.
When he's on the floor, they are ranked as the best, or if not the best, one of the best defenses in the NBA. It's somebody who could take you from a bottom 25 defense in the league to a number 1 defensive team in the league.
It's unreal. His impact.
Unreal.
It's like it's even more than like a LeBron-esque impact. Like, it is unbelievable what Joel Embiid does to that defense.
And, so I agree, but at the same time, LeBron, he's more of an overall season impact.
Right.
Well, Embiid is a game-to-game impact.
Right.
Well, we haven't seen them in the playoffs, so.
Yes. We haven't seen him in a full season.
We haven't seen him in a full season either, so we could possibly see what he has impact. Towns is also down this year in points. He was scoring 25, now he's down to 20. I don't know if that's Jimmy Butler taking his shots or, something along those lines, maybe a little bit of that. But overall, he just isn't producing as much on the defensive side of the ball that you'd like to see at this point. He's not getting you that progression that you want. Don't get me wrong, he's a great player. He's just not the person who I would want to start my franchise out with.
And the weird thing is too, he looked promising out of college as a decent defender. Like, he could turn into a very good defender.
Well, when you got a guy like Calipari who won't take anything and won't take any crap.
I think it's mostly just not like, he definitely has the talent and potential to be a great defender. The effort, I just don't think is there. But I think if I had to start my franchise today, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I think right now, if I had to choose, I would go with Kristaps Porzingis.
That's a solid decision.
I love Giannis. I love Ben Simmons. The only issue I have with both of them is neither of them are very good shooters. Ben Simmons hasn't. Nobody really knows if he can shoot because he just doesn't shoot.
He actually
He doesn't shoot threes.
he actually took a 3-pointer tonight.
Did he?
He missed it.
I figured,
But he's 0 for 1.
Giannis, he's not a bad 3-point shooter, but he's just not up to par yet. What I love with Kristaps Porzingis is he can kind of do everything. He's also 22. He's only like a half year older than Karl Anthony Towns. He's shooting 40% from 3 currently on this year. He can handle the ball. He can post up. He can block shots. He can basically score at will at this point. He's 7'3". He's one of the tallest guys in the NBA right now. You can't block his shot. And what
he takes literal strides across the court.
And the impact he's brought to the Knicks this year without Carmelo, with kind of a lackluster supporting cast, they've played very well. With Tim Hardaway Jr. I'm really excited to see if guys are more attracted to the New York Knicks after this season to pair with Kristaps Porzingis.
And I think that is kind of a little bit of an ode to Carmelo Anthony and how much he holds back teams.
And Phil Jackson, man.
One
you got to give
thing,
credit.
One thing I think is very, very underrated with the Knicks is their coach, Jeff Hornacek.
Mm-hmm.
He was basically forced to run the triangle offense last year, which obviously didn't work. But you take a look at when he was the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. After, Amar
they ran that 2-point guard system with Dragic and
Stoudemire
Bledsoe.
was gone, Steve Nash was gone. They had Goran Dragic was really their star. And they had a decent team, but that team won 48 games. Obviously, they got the 9 seed, but they just kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting whatsoever for that team to be relevant. And then he ended up getting fired from there after they had tried to run a 3-point guard system, which just did not work whatsoever. But
It was a little weird.
But I don't think he's getting enough credit for the New York Knicks start.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And shifting over gears from the NBA courts to a little bit of the college courts. Guys, college basketball is in full swing now with, since we've last done a podcast. And there's a lot of mock drafts going on, and obviously the biggest story coming out of college basketball, especially impacting the NBA, has been Michael Porter suffering that season-ending injury, and apparently it's going pretty well, like rehab already. And I don't know if he stepped onto a court yet, but Porter had one of the highest ceilings coming into the draft, and I don't think he's slipped that far. I think in most drafts, he's still a top 5 player and prospect.
Well, let me tell you, I don't even know if Porter was even healthy. I don't think he could stop himself from dropping down because Marvin Bagley is absolutely insane. He's putting up 30 points a night, 15 rebounds. He plays both sides of the floor like it's nothing. He's a man amongst boys there, and it's incredible to watch.
No, he's gotten a lot of comparisons to NBA all-time legend Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, Kevin Garnett has been his comparison since he's been like 13. Mm-hmm. The Bagley is literally very impressive to watch. I like the big men in this draft, man.
There's a lot of good.
I'll tell you what,
you got a lot of variety.
Maybe we might have a rise
Bagley.
again in the big man game.
You got Bagley.
I love the big. I mean, even in the NBA, we're talking about Karl Anthony Towns. We're talking about Kristaps Porzingis. Giannis is a 7-footer.
But there's really not that many.
Guard, but
these amazing unicorn-esque type
These
players.
young guys are going to come back and bring back the big game, the big man game that's disappeared.
Joel Embiid as well.
Well, not necessarily.
Stars.
I would say that while they might bring back the
it won't be the same.
Big man, it's not necessarily going to be the same. It's going to be this new style of big man.
I completely agree.
It's a big man. It's a big
but
man.
But now, teams aren't even looking for big men.
Abilities.
They're playing 2 power forwards.
Guard inside of a big. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think this draft is really top heavy though.
Very top heavy. Very top heavy.
If you get if you get a lottery pick, you're almost not. I wouldn't say guaranteed to get a good player, but you have a lot of guys with a lot of upside in this that you can take in the top 15. Even guys who aren't getting quite as much love, like a Miles Bridges, like a Miles Robert Williams at Texas A&M. Even even a guy who's fallen way down is Grayson Allen, who would have been a lottery pick, I believe, after his sophomore year, and just keeps falling down the boards.
Well, I mean, he has a little bit of
off
the court issues. Well, on the
Not
court,
really.
on the
court,
off
the
with
court
his-
issues.
on the court, off the court issues, kind of deal. Non-basketball related issues, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah, like I've like Joel Berry. That's even another guy. I haven't heard much of him.
Yeah,
Like in the draft, at least.
Yeah, I think there's definitely top heavy, but there's also some sleepers down there as well, like a Joel Berry, like a Grayson Allen.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's this kid overseas, and for those of you who I guess have been living under a rock, there's this Doncic kid. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him.
His name's come up a couple
Yeah,
times.
his name's come up a couple times. Kid's insane at basketball. At age 18, getting starter level minutes for a huge club in the EuroLeague, and he's performing absolutely out of his mind. I really love this kid. He can play both the shooting guard and the small forward position, which is really good in like this era of like positionless basketball that we're starting to enter, where you get a lot of players who can play multiple positions and guard multiple positions. The dude's 6'7", awesome, 220 pounds, already got that frame. Probably just needs to add a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of muscle.
A little bit more
but
muscle on there.
The fundamentals you can see with him are just unreal.
And I was doing a little bit of research because, I'm an NBA draft nerd, and I love just seeing how players rise and fall on the boards. There's this man out of Louisiana Tech who I guarantee you he's probably only on one out of every like 3 draft boards in everywhere. His name is Jacoby Boykins. And if anybody's listening from Louisiana or Jacoby Boykins is listening to this podcast, I love Jacoby Boykins. He's a knockdown shooter who just needs to get a little bit work on his handles and his body. Like, he doesn't necessarily have the frame or the muscle, but his athleticism is insane. Like, it is absolutely incredible what he does on the offensive side of the ball. And the defensive side of the ball, he is very well, like, he's a scrappy player. He gets in that lane. I've seen him a couple times this season, just because, after I saw like a little bit of some work on him during one of the college basketball games that I was watching. He did like a couple of those Russell Westbrook esque plays where he sees the pass coming and he takes it and he just takes off in transition and he just gets the pass right before he fought around a screen and absolutely incredible. Love Jacoby Boykins. Probably won't get picked. He'll probably make it to some summer league team,
he's gonna ball out.
But he's gonna ball out. He's gonna ball out. He's my Semi Olajay pick this year. I love Semi Olajay coming out of SMU last year.
I still need to do a little bit of searching for a good sleeper, but I'll get there someday.
Yeah. Well, 2018 sleepers start early, so gotta wake up. Early bird gets the worm.
Hey, we've only got 203 days until the NBA draft.
That is true.
It's coming up.
It's coming up fast. It'll be here before you know it. And with that being said, we're going to finish off with our little bit of a rivalry here that we have going on the podcast. Cam, your Celtics and my Sixers are playing tomorrow. Should be an interesting game.
I am so excited, even if we lose.
Let's not forget the Miami Heat did end the Celtics winning streak.
Oh, my God.
So the Triple Double podcast is looming, Cam. We're coming for the Celtics.
I think Joel Embiid's going to go off. I don't think Al Horford's going to even be able to touch him. I'm interested to see how Kyrie will defend against Ben Simmons, who's 6'10", and Kyrie's a small point guard. So I'm so excited to watch. Win or lose, I'm very excited to watch.
I was very
game.
impressed with the Sixers playing the Warriors.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was very impressed with my team too.
They were absolutely incredible against the Warriors. Even though they lost that game, they were up big, and
Hunter,
it showed everything.
Did the Heat beat the Warriors recently?
Hey,
because our two teams did.
No, they did not. They didn't win. They lost both games against the Warriors.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then it's just my team that beat the Warriors.
Yeah, well,
so did the Oklahoma City Thunder. So
you're just lucky the Miami Heat didn't find a way to get that 8 seed last year, because they would have beaten the Celtics in the first round.
Well, the Bulls almost did.
The Bulls almost did. The Heat certainly would have.
And I believe, Hunter, you have a little bit of a Marcin Gortat update on us.
I do have a Marcin Gortat update. So his defensive box plus minus is up to a 1.8.
Ooh,
so pretty good, approaching back up to the 2s. So who knows?
Well, he's not going to get a credit. He's going to have a great season, and no one's going to give him any respect.
Here's the interesting thing. This whole thing could lie on Cam. Actually ended up might get a couple Defensive Player of the Year votings. If only. I've seen so many rumors of DeMarcus Cousins getting traded to Washington.
Oh,
and that would just kill every hope and dream for Marcin Gortat for Defensive Player of the Year.
Marcin Gortat, maybe the most underrated defender in this league.
Who knows?
We're gonna be following him, and no one's gonna realize it, but he's gonna be an insane defender, and we just realize that we find this all of a sudden.
I mean, surprisingly, back in 2014, 2015, and even the year before that, his defensive box plus minus, both those years were above 2, which is really, really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
So in summary, Fizdale can coach. Towns is maybe the guy you want to start your franchise with. And there's this Doncic kid who can play basketball. Anyway, this has been the Triple Double Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to follow, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Never miss a podcast. Tell your friends. All right. As always, I'm Eddie Fitzgerald.
I'm Cam McKee.
I'm Hunter Nicely.
And have a great day, everybody.